Been a while since we talked about 3D printing. I still have it. It's been very busy while I've sat by and watched it do my work. And here's some of the cool stuff it's been making. This is a tiny Rick drinking from a flask. That's not very useful. But some of the rest of the stuff is, not this. I'm going to go through some of this, specifically spending a lot of time on how I use it for casting. How I use it to make this hammer. Yes, I removed it from the thing. That took some doing, but I'm going to take some of your suggestions and fix the handle and make it better, so maybe it'll work better. But we'll get to that in a second. First off, check these out. These are screwdriver handles. I did not make these. This is a 1/4-inch hex thing, so it takes these quick change things, takes bits. I've kept, they come in different sizes. I'll put the link to any of these that I found. I'll put the link in the description. I've been keeping these two in my work coat pocket, and anytime I find that I need something like this with a different bit, I take our electric screwdriver, the quick change out of there, stick it in here. I use this one today with a weird bit that was nice and short to get it into a thing. If you remember, I'm a repairman in real life, appliance repairman. I printed these with a bunch of layers on the bottom. They print vertically, just out of PLA, and they seem pretty strong. I mean, there's only so much you want to tighten something before you start stripping it, especially into sheet metal. So these have held up just fine. It does get kind of loose, but these are pretty nice. I found these very useful. So I'll put a link to that in the description. That's just a side note. These are going right back in my work coat pocket. These are great. Obviously this was not 3D printed. This is out of my bead roller. You might have seen in a bunch of the bead roller videos, there's this little square head thing to tighten down the top bead when I do the sheet metal. Especially like when I did those top strips on the welding cart. It's a 10mm square thing. So you can't use a square like socket thing to do it. And the crescent wrench scratches the top. So I made this. I designed this in Tinkercad. Designed it nice and thick. This is nice and thick. This little ball here, there's a weak spot here, of course, but you don't crank on this thing real hard because these Chinesium threads will strip out. But this has worked pretty well and has made, tightening and loosening it and counting the turns very easy. 1 turn, 2 turns, that kind of thing. It was pretty tight with this 10mm opening, so I just kind of pounded it on. And again, printed upright with supports and a bunch of layers, bunch of bottom layers. So this was nice and thick. And that works well. This is not online because I made this. I will plan to put a bunch of these things that I made online at some point, probably on Thingiverse or My Mini Factory or something. And when I do that, I'll put links to all of them in the description. But that's just another thing to do on the list, and I'm kind of stressed for time here. Moving on, there's a good story about this. So I keep mentioning I want to make a Bronze Age artifact. Well, this is a 3D scan of a Bronze Age spear point. I know what it is. I will talk a lot more about it when I go to cast it in aluminum bronze. I've been wanting to do this. I printed it split for reasons which I will talk about later. But this is a 3D scan of an actual artifact. There's not a lot of information about the context on the website, but I'll do some digging, see what I can find when I do the casting video. And you would be watching a casting video of me casting this right now, except last weekend, my entire house got the stomach flu. Everybody. Me, my wife, the kids, sister-in-law who was visiting. She even had to cancel her flight. She couldn't leave because airlines have barf bags, but they don't have enough barf bags. I guarantee that. It was not a fun weekend. Topped off a great 4th birthday party for my daughter. Everyone's playing, having a good time at this pizza joint, playing games, run. Hey, you don't look very good. All over everything. So that was, not going to say that was fun. More like it was really not fun. That was really not fun. Anyways, that's a gross story. Moving on to these. A while ago I made some calipers, and someone put in a comment, disappointing, blah, 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 you should have made these calipers. And this was in a big file of many things. I've just printed this, and this. And yeah, I had much better calipers. Small point, that file was released like a month after my video, so it didn't exist. So dates, man, they matter. Also, thank you for sending me the link. These are really cool. So this is a protractor. You know what a protractor is. Ruler with V-block, that's kind of cool. This was supposed to be like one of those things with like, you put it in here and then you screw one of these down and then you have, there's another part to this that I left in the basement. Anyway, there's another part that screws on this and then you can get like angles off of this, which is cool, but I can't get the threads to work. The first one I printed, like they go on and then they jam. The first one I printed, they did work, but there wasn't real good adhesion. So when I tried tightening it down, it just kind of broke right off, and it was real crummy. This one looks much better, but now the screws don't work. They're too tight. But this thing here, there just isn't quite a good enough fit. So when I do that, it doesn't quite line up. You know, this is kind of cool. This kind of thing is really neat. There's also things like fillet gauges and thickness gauges and those kind of things. I'm probably going to print more of those. I don't have them right here because that requires planning, and I'm bad at that, so I didn't make them. But these are kind of fun to mess with. However, one thing I will mention, calipers, these things, whatever they're called, protractors, rulers, they're all dirt cheap if you go and buy them. It's fun to mess with them, and actually this one will probably work great. But when you print them, this prong thing in the middle, that's on weak. It's on the weak way. There's like a grain with 3D prints, and snapping it on broke one of the prongs off. So this is inherently not as good as one that you buy. But it was cool to print it. So those going bye-bye over there. Basically what I've learned from this experience and a bunch of other things, you want precision tools, buy them. 3D printing is cool, but not for that. That's more of like a toy usage of 3D printing. These toy-looking things are much more useful. These are clamping blocks for woodworking projects. I haven't done much woodworking on this channel, but I do have more woodworking in the future planned, and I have done some. And if you've ever tried gluing boards at a 90-degree angle, clamping is difficult. They make special clamps, but as you can guess, they're not free. So I printed up these, which are kind of cool. I'll grab a board, show you why. Okay, these are just cut-offs. But watch this. So say you're going to do it like this, butting them up together. Ooh, those are cut really poorly. Butt them like this, and then you can actually clamp right here, from here to here with one of those C-clamps, and it'll hold it tight at a 90-degree angle. Then you can clamp here if you really want. And because these are free of each other, you can clamp a thin board to a thick board, you know, as long as the difference isn't too bad, or you can clamp two thin boards or two thick boards. You know, it works pretty well. These are just 3/4 inch, which is pretty standard. And there, clamp them, and it holds it at 90 degrees. So you print more of them, you can clamp a whole square thing all together, which will be particularly nice when I go to make more flasks, because my 2 flask sizes are pretty useful, but I could use some more, especially bigger ones, for that gingery lathe. That's looking way in the future, though. Still assembling everything I need for all of that. But there, these are useful. I did not make these, I found these. Link in the description. Now, the big thing. How I used 3D printing to prepare for this hammer. If you remember, I cast this in aluminum bronze. I've been using it still a lot, and it's holding up pretty well, I think. I mean, of course, it should, right? It's a hammer. And here's kind of the progression I went through. I made this on Tinkercad. Very simple shape. This is my first prototype. There's no draft, there's no fillets, nothing. Just basic, so I could hold it in my hand. Decided that's not going to work because I can't make draft and fillets and stuff on Tinkercad. So that 1.0 was scrapped. Then I made this. 2 separate pieces, right? With this, and decided I was going to do a core, which I'll talk about that in a minute. I made it like this, added fillets. This was done in Fusion 360. Added draft, fillets all around all the faces, and got to looking. Didn't think it was quite thick enough this way. This is a weird oblong face once the draft was put in. So version 2, gone. Version 3, which I printed and used, if you can remember, is that same thing, but thicker, a little more square in profile. The reason you have this weird kind of shape here and flat here, if you're watching this and you don't know I do metal casting, I do metal casting, and you need to make things specific shapes so when you ram it up in the sand, you can remove it from the sand. What I didn't do is put these locating pins so I could locate the 2 pieces together in the cope and the drag. But that was remedied with a drill and a dowel that I had laying around. So this is what I rammed up in the sand. But See, they're different. This is a hole in it. This is a weird thing. Well, I made these. I made these. This was like a little core box. So I stuck these together, clamped it together, stuffed it full of sand real tight, pulled it apart, then I had this nice hard piece of sand, which I put in that hole, which left this as a recess, into which I poured aluminum bronze, and forevermore it was always considered hammer time. But hammer time's in the future. I pretty much have everything I need for hammer time now, except nothing. I have everything. I even have materials. But that's kind of interesting. So that's what I like about 3D printing. Not precision tool things. I really shouldn't throw all this stuff over here when I don't know that I'm done talking about it yet. That's good planning. Okay, version 1 got thrown too far away. I'm not going to go get it. But you can go version 1, version 2, version 3, and then use it really quite effectively, quite quickly. And this, I think that would be, what would that called? Rapid prototyping or something? Or this is another nice usage. You can make a quick little add-on part. Real simple, real easy. This, I think, is the true usefulness in my application anyway. You can argue that you can use 3D printers to make all kinds of things, and that's true, and you can use it in many ways, and that's true. But rapid prototyping out something to make, printing something cool to cast, or adding on a part to a tool that it really should have come with to begin with. And if this breaks, I can change the file, make it better, and print a new one. So that's pretty sweet. One last thing I didn't mention. Here's a thing I made, or was printing. This is a 3D printed RC airplane. I got this file from, where was it, 3DLabprint.com. It's not free, you gotta buy it. But it prints with the ribs and everything, prints in pieces. This one is a P-51 Mustang, and it's actually designed to be made into a flyable RC model, which is pretty sweet. So they got places to put servos and radios and hinges and all that. And the kids stole it and broke the tailpiece. But that's fine.
Kids didn't do it. It was like.
It was what? It was the cat?
No, it was like under clothes.
It was you?
I was walking around.
You broke it.
And it went crack, and I'm like, what?
You broke it. I can print more. It's fine.
Well, our daughter was using this as a saw. I'm going to saw things.
As a saw?
Yeah.
I think I need to adjust my print settings. Focus camera. These are actually leftover extras from when I printed one for my dad for his 70th birthday. He's super into RC airplanes. Anyway, some of these didn't print out so well, so I have all these extras. I have enough extras to make one whole plane. The parts I didn't give him because they just didn't turn out well for whatever reason. This one's really cool. Yeah, so maybe eventually in the future I'll make this into a stationary model. I used to fly RC airplanes, like big wooden ones, but I really don't see myself getting into that again. But this would make a really cool like wall hanger or something. Even cooler, check this out. Oh, LED light's dying. That's not good. It's glow in the dark. How cool is that? So yeah, I may make this into a wall hanger at some point. I have no near-term plans to do so. So yeah, maybe eventually. But glows in the dark, so cool.